In the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew, the apostle gives a genealogy which leads from Abraham to Christ. And one of the great reminders of that genealogy is God's sovereignty throughout human history. God was sovereign in a family which led to Christ and his coming into the world. But more than that, God was sovereign over the world that surrounded that family. In that genealogy, we see not just God's sovereignty over the Israelites, but over the nations. 4 women are listed in Jesus' genealogy at the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew. 3 of them are not Israelites. Rahab was a Canaanite. Ruth was a Moabite. Bathsheba was most likely a Hittite. Yet God used these women in the family tree which led to Christ. Here we have Esther, a woman who is an Israelite, becoming queen over the non-Israelite Persians. God isn't mentioned in Esther, but he's present, orchestrating these events through the kingdoms of the world, from Vashti's refusal and banishment to Esther's ascension. It is the hand of God at work. God isn't mentioned in Esther, but he's present. When Esther lived, it was not a great time for the Israelites. God had brought a righteous judgment, which brought expulsion from the Holy Land. The temple had been destroyed and was in the process of being rebuilt. The monarchy was over. Israel had lost its sovereignty. When Jesus came into the world, it was not a great time for the Israelites. They were under Roman authority, which could be oppressive. The time of the prophets had ended centuries before. And in that time, God also could have seemed distant, that he was no longer speaking to his people. But he was present. And I look at the world today, even before the pandemic, we have military conflicts, human trafficking, modern-day slavery, oppressive regimes, increasing persecution on the church in many parts of the world. And it can be tempting to look at the darkness of the world and to question where God is. But it is the same God who ruled in Esther's day and who put Esther on the throne. It is the same God who ruled in Jesus' day, who sent the angels to speak to Mary, who sent the Spirit through which Jesus was conceived. It is the same God who rules today. Just because we aren't always dazzled does not mean that God is any less active in his creation. Just because we don't always feel God's presence doesn't mean he's not there. Because the Lord Almighty reigns. He's the Lord of history, and he is the Lord of today.